Stay tuned. Next up is David Charles Allen, Village Properties Realtor and host of The Hop. That's Home Ownership Podcast, here with the latest real estate news in Santa Barbara.
Welcome to The Hop. This is David Charles Allen, Realtor at Village Properties in Santa Barbara, California, with my great friend and co-host. Glad to have her back this week. Patti, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, David. As our listeners may know, although I spent most of my adult life in Santa Barbara, I'm now in Fort Myers. And as the world knows, that's where we had this big hurricane.
Yeah, pretty wild. And assuming in Santa Barbara, we're dealing with only partly cloudy skies scattered throughout the 60s, you guys had a really big thing happen to you. Is everything okay?
Yeah, we're doing okay, but I know a lot of people are not, depending on, the area, a lot of displaced people, but Santa Barbara has had their problems as well. So we just get through it as best we can.
Yeah, we for sure have. And looking ahead, we may have some stormy swell out there. Again, it's going to be partly sky throughout the 60s. We may have a little bit of thunderstorms today. So that's kind of cool. In terms of how the interest rates have performed, we're at 6.75 for a 30-year conforming and 5.625 for a 30-year jumbo. So slightly ticking up, not any huge jumps like we've seen in the past. But if we're getting up to 7, that's going to be a lot more difficult for people to purchase a home.
Right. I especially feel for first-time buyers.
Yeah, definitely for first-time buyers as well. And since prices haven't reflected the interest change as much, it's definitely a huge increase in terms of your monthly payment.
Right.
And then in terms of how the statistics have performed, we have 16 new listings, 19 price changes, 16 that closed, 19 that went pending, and 5 coming soon. So really low number of new listings at 16. That's, again, a huge number of price changes at 19 and 19 that pended. So it seems we're not building up too much supply, but it seems we have just over the course of the last couple months, we've had a lot more buildup of the supply of homes, maybe in other areas that are marketed here, it seems like, and just ones that haven't sold quite yet because of the prices and the interest rates increase.
Right. And now, what do you think accounts for such a low new listings this week? Because I think it was in the 20s last week. So I know that was low too, but it's really dropped even lower. Is it the change in season?
It's the change in season. Holiday season's coming up. So Thanksgiving, Christmas, people don't want to deal with moving at that time. And like we've talked about before, people are really kind of stuck where they are unless they're buying with cash. Mm-hmm. They have a low interest rates in their current home, unless they're forced to move for whatever reason in terms of employment or something like that, where they have to deal with it. It's really difficult for people to sell their homes because they don't have anywhere to go. And the payment's going to be so much different now with the interest rates rising.
Right. That makes total sense, David. And even though the economy is a little shaky, we're not at this point seeing foreclosures because still people could sell their house and at least get their money back, if not make money. Is that correct?
That's correct for people that have been in their homes for a while. Maybe if they bought in the last 6 months, that could be something that they're not going to be able to get their value back. It's really going to depend on the situation and what the home is. Desirable homes that are done are still selling really quickly over asking here. The less desirable ones, maybe someone purchased on a whim just because that was all that was available, and them trying to resell it now, you're not going to have the buyer demand that they had in the past.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So everything was selling, as you've mentioned, in months past, no matter what the house was like or what work needed to be done. So I could imagine some people could have some remorse, but I guess they just have to deal with what they have and fix it up.
Exactly. Any question of the week for me?
Well, yes, in light of Hurricane Ian, and because I know so much about the disasters that have happened in Santa Barbara. In fact, I lost a house in the Tea Fire and, the mudslides in Montecito. Many of my friends went through that. At the time, everyone was worried about the house values dropping, but they seem to have made just a great recovery and prices are higher than ever. And I wondered, is that distinct or different for Santa Barbara, or do you feel that most places make a comeback like that?
I feel like most places make a comeback. It usually takes a couple years. I think the biggest concern usually is when that happens is not only do you have to worry about it happening again, but people aren't able to move into those areas because of insurance. So if you can't get insurance on your home, you can't get a loan. And if your insurance payment's going to be equal to your monthly payment, your mortgage payment, it makes it unaffordable to people. So there's places where we had fires up in Michigan Canyon or something like that, where it's almost impossible. Like all the insurance companies just left. So you couldn't even insure a home up there. And if they were, it was probably equal or more than your mortgage payment every month. So it's more the fact that, yeah, people will be able to deal with it and they'll get over that it was just a one-off kind of thing. But being able to afford it and being able to get insurance on it is the difficult part, in my opinion.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Now, we actually are going to have a new roof. About half of the shingles on our roof flew off here. And I wonder if you file a claim, it seems like there should be a law against this, but I seem to remember having a house in Santa Barbara and I had one claim one time, and after that they canceled our insurance. So is that something that is legal for insurance companies to cancel you once you've had a claim?
It's all going to be dependent. There's definitely situations where I've heard about people getting canceled because of claims, but that's kind of out of my pay range. I'm not too sure.
We should have an insurance person on sometime. I can't expect you to know everything about everything, but that would be interesting to know.
Yeah, I don't think you can necessarily cancel, but they'll just leave California in general and they'll get rid of all their accounts.
I see.
So,
We're getting out of Dodge.
Yeah, so I don't know necessarily the legality of being able to cancel it or not, but I have heard of it done before, and it's definitely not a warm feeling knowing that you can't even get insurance on your house.
Right. No, that's not a good feeling. And then I suppose if you have a loan, the bank insists you have it. So that would be putting you in a bad situation.
Exactly. So it's not good all the way around.
Yeah.
So it is tough just after those kind of situations that there's so much going on that you have to worry about just with recovery and getting back in a normal day-to-day life, that you have that to deal with on top of it. And that's what makes people so hesitant purchasing something in that area for at least a couple of years, 1 or 2 years.
Right. That makes sense. So, David, I know we usually talk about our fur babies, and I just wanted to mention, as we prepared for this hurricane, at the time we thought it was going to be further up north, kind of by the Tampa area, but I swear Ollie knew it was coming. I could just tell he knew. So I wonder about animals just having a feeling or a sense. You look at, birds go to warmer climates when they know the cold weather is coming. There's so many examples of it. They must somehow have a sense about the weather.
Yeah, they definitely have some kind of sense. I've heard elephants move to higher ground when there's like a tidal wave or an earthquake coming too. So they have some sense where they're just told, some kind of intuition where they know what's about to happen and you need to listen to them in a sense.
Right. And I imagine just like people, a lot of animals, I'm sure, were traumatized by this hurricane or any kind of natural disaster. I was telling you before the show that my son-in-law had to take my granddog, they live in Naples, out of their house because it was flooding and they had to go on to the boat that they have, but they must have had to go through about 5 feet of storm surge to get there. Luckily, he's a big dog, but still, it would be a little nerve-wracking for not only people, but for their animals.
Oh, yeah. Just they have no idea what's going on. And if you're experiencing it for the first time, they are too. So.
Right. Because he told me his dog had a fair amount of anxiety. So poor Riley, I haven't seen him since then, but hopefully he's feeling more secure now.
Yeah. Sending love to him as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you, David, for all the well wishes. And thank you for all the Santa Barbara real estate news. I really appreciate you being on the show.
All right. Good to have you back. And let's give it a go next week.
Thank you, David. Bye-bye.
Bye, Patti.